Whiskey Jason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany, tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have something from Duncan Taylor. Today I have something from Dimensions, and it's their cask strength Scotch whiskey, sherry cask, 16 years old, from Highland Park, yay! So distilled June 2004, bottled March in 2000, and look at that color, 2020. This was a sherry cask, cask number 501710911. Big name, 55%. I paid 125 euros for this. This is Whiskybase number 177791, and it's one of 336 bottles, and I have bottle number 281. So my first question, of course, is how did they only get 336 bottles out of a sherry butt? A sherry butt is 500 liters, basically, and so 336 is a little bit not enough. It could have been a sherry hogsheads. I don't know. That's 250 liters. That would work out, but then after 16 years, there's not enough angel share. So I don't know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to compare it to this one. Whoops, sorry, this one. This is a Dimensions Highland Park 13-year-old, and this is only from a oak cask. So this is ex-bourbon, basically. This is 54.3%. Now, what I'm going to do is, before I even try these, because I've already done a video about it, is I'm going to refer to something that I can highly, highly recommend if you want to know something about whiskeys in general, and especially something which is very specific to this whiskey here, sulfur in whiskey. There's a website called whiskeyandwisdom.com, all one word, whiskey, SKY and wisdom.com, and /sulfur - whiskey. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful article. They're exactly my opinion as well for everything they said. You can actually see warm tub on there and so on. And they talk about the two areas where sulfur can enter into a whiskey. The first one is actually in the process of distilling. In the process of distilling, you can actually create some so-called what was it here called? Sulfites. It's a byproduct of fermentation, not bad. Usually we kind of talk about them being meaty, savory, a little bit of a beef stock, a bouillon, Vegemite sometimes. You will never hear the description, for example, I've never heard with Craig Allergy, the description, for example, cabbage water, burning rubber, brimstone, gunpowder, or rotten eggs. That's a totally different thing. And now what I'm talking about is sherry casks. Now, what I did not know, and that's interesting enough for me, makes sense after I read about this, up until the mid-1980s, of course, sherry was sent to Scotland in the barrel. Yeah, then of course that was forbidden. First of all, sherry. Scotch was forbidden to leave the country, and Scotch barrels you had to be bottled and made, and also bottled, especially in Scotland. And so that happened. That was great. And the same thing that happened with sherry is, hey, if you're gonna have sherry, it has to be also bottled in that sherry triangle of Spain. Very, very good. And so what happened was you had to send empty barrels up into Scotland. Now it's very, very hot in Spain. Even in the other months of the year that are not summer, it's still sometimes 70, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe all the way up to 25 degrees, 30 degrees Celsius. And what can happen is that actually we put in a nice little candle, sulfur candle, and that sulfur candle actually helps then for killing the bacteria and killing all the different things here that could cause this whiskey to actually become bad. And so the problem is whiskeys before the 1990s didn't have basically sulfur. This is a big problem we have today. And once sulfur has entered a cask, even the second and third, maybe even the fourth time you use it, it's still there. I didn't know that either. And so many people have now just basically said, oh, live with it. Some of the brand ambassadors have actually said, this is not a bug, it's a feature. This is actually an impurity which does not belong in are whiskeys. You should not be tasting rotten egg. You should not be tasting sulfur, rubber, anything like cabbage water or so on. This is not something you should have in your whiskeys. Now, very many distilleries, maybe even Highland Park and so on, when they do get a cask and they do taste it later on, they know, oh, looky here, they might sort these out and say, here, independent bottlers. And independent bottlers like Adelphi, Signatory, Gordon MacPhail, Duncan Taylor, Douglas Lang, even the SMWF have received sherry casks that have been sulfured. And many people don't notice it. I've been amazed at the amount of people I've had that have said, Jason, try this whiskey. And I just smell it, go, it's sulfur. And they go, no, it's not. I said, believe me, I'm a sulfur detector. I know people that are more sensitive than I am, but there are people that are much less sensitive. And for them, hey, you live in a happy world. A lot of your whiskeys don't taste bad. Unfortunately, this whiskey, I just do this, and I go, oh, sulfur. And this is almost, and I described it in my German video, imagine you're on the side of the street and imagine the fire truck comes by with the sirens on. You can't talk to your boyfriend, girlfriend anymore. Yeah, the sirens over, they're just so loud, nothing else matters. And that's what's happening here for me, unfortunately. I get some sulfur. I get a tiny little bit of heat. The 55% are beautifully integrated. And after that, I get a little bit of a raisin and so on. But that's like if you had a top 10 list, it'd be the first 7 points are sulfur, and the last 3 could be something else. And that's just such a shame, because I think this whiskey would be such a great whiskey for people who are insensitive or not overly sensitive to the sulfur-tainted casks that have been used in the industry now for decades, and it's a fault. I'm going to be Ralphie here. People, listen to me. This is not the way it's supposed to be. Don't believe anyone else that says that's a feature of sherry whiskey. No, it's not. It's a fault. Let's try it. It's bothersome. This, imagine, I actually bought this bottle for 125 euros myself. And I'm going to try to drink it myself. And every time I open the bottle, I get rotten eggs. What I get is I'm actually in Iceland again. I'm back up at the Blue Lagoon. It was a natural spa area where there was geysers and all these hot pools and so on. I've been in Italy, and we've been to the nice hot tub spots where the natural heat and you have that sulfur moment. Bam! That's what I'm getting here, and it just does not do it for me. Luckily, this was a bottle share. I can get rid of everything, but still, and this would really bother me. Now, luckily, today we have something called Whiskybase.com. We can type in the cask number, get the information at the moment. Unfortunately, I'm one of the first persons to taste this whiskey in the world, and so nothing's written yet. I might actually just go online and be careful, this has sulfur. Gordon MacPhail. Glenfarclas has some beautiful family casks, and they have some family casks with sulfur. And sometimes there's like they're just this is one of those wow whiskeys. And the next cask you get basically sister cask, same year, maybe 1 year later, everything's identical except for the cask, and of course it's like rotten eggs. And that is something that I actually have my problems with, and it's just not me. It's a lot of people out there that have problems. All right, so this is going to be a whiskey for me. It's going to be a D whiskey. Don't buy it. For the value for money, then it would be an F whiskey. Now, I'm absolutely sure there are people out there that have no problem whatsoever with sulfur. They're going to try this, and they're going to go, this is one of the best whiskeys I've ever had. Because they blend out the deaf to that sound of the fire department, and they can concentrate on everything else. Unfortunately, I was made deaf personally by the fire department. I can't hear anything. I can't taste it. Everything else is just secondary, or third or fourth or place number 8 or 9. All right, over here, very, very quickly, this beautiful, nice thing. I've already done a video on this. This is a 13-year-old Highland Park as well. What I get actually is gooseberries, which I did not get the first time I did it all by myself. But in comparison to this, it's got a beautiful, beautiful type of gooseberry moment. This was actually a B- whiskey, a B- C++. The only thing wrong with this whiskey is it's too hot. You dilute it down to 48%, maybe 50%. This is then 54.3. Add a little bit of water. Now, also nice. The sulfur goes from the beginning to the end. Also in the nose, just not something I like, not something I want. My problem, not yours. All right, remember, if you have a whiskey that has sulfur moments in there, that is a fault. It is not an added feature. All right, sulfur does not belong in whiskey. It's added to the cask to make the casks ready and available for transport. Many, many, many companies in Scotland turn away and refuse and reject sherried casks that are too much. This is not something we want. This is not something we go for. This is something which is a problem in the industry. Now, recently, in the last 10 years, they've gotten much better at it. But there are many casks 16 years ago, to year 2000 and so on. Maybe this was actually a second filled, so it might have been actually from the 90s. And so, this is exactly what we have as a problem. You can still taste it. All right, thank you very much for watching. My question is, are you sensitive to sulfur in your whiskeys? And if so, which whiskeys have you had that have had a lot of sulfur? My personal experience is most of the core range, most of the standard things, I don't think I've ever had any sulfur whatsoever. I've had the meatiness of a Craigellachie, which I love, but I'm talking about that rotten egg, that cabbage moment, that catalysator from your car when you put it on the first, that cat moment. Where have you had that? And it's mainly basically independent bottlings, unfortunately. So, and that's what I really think the brands just get rid of those casks and let the independent bottlers deal with it. All right, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for liking. Thank you very much for sharing other videos that are more positive. Or if you have another person that had a problem with sulfur, share this video with them so they can go to whiskyandwisdom.com/sulfur minus whiskey, sulfur in whiskey, sulfur minus in whiskey. All right, thank you very much. All the best. Whiskey Jason here. Rant over. Bye-bye.